Rays baseball against the Texas Rangers with their season on the line. And that means Marc Topkin's season is on the line of covering playoff baseball games at Tampa Bay or at TB Times_Rays. Topper, great to see you, man. So, yeah, let's start off with the vibes yesterday. You've been to a billion Rays games. Was it as bad as it looked?
It didn't actually seem like it was going to be the major topic of conversation after the game. They don't announce attendance till the 8th inning. I've seen enough of these crowds. I was thinking low 20s somewhere, which still not great, but I guess the other side of that too would have been a little bit more respectable. To be under on the 20,000 certainly made it stand out. And some history showed us that, as you have the graphic up there, you have to go back to the Black Sox scandal, right? And Joe Jackson, all that kind of stuff to remember the last time it was a small crowd. So there were reasons, which I'm sure we can, or you can discuss, or you guys can scroll through Twitter and listen to everyone to tell me why I was such a mean person for pointing that out. But on the other hand, the Twins played at pretty much the same time yesterday. They didn't have any trouble packing their house. It's just not a good situation yesterday. I mean, I get it from the fan side. They didn't find out till Sunday night. The game's at 3:08. People work. People have kids in school. You didn't have a lot of notice. And my wife's a teacher. She was explaining to me that it's hard to walk in on Monday and ask for Tuesday off. But you might be able to ask for Wednesday off on Monday. So maybe there'll be a few more people today, but definitely a disappointing turnout and one that became a major topic of conversation and not the reason the Rays wanted to be a major topic of conversation yesterday.
What was worse, the crowd attendance or the way the Rays played?
See, I'm going to go with the game on that point, Eric, because I think that was really bad. That was, I don't think any question, their worst game of the year, obviously the worst time to play your worst game of the year. 4 errors and probably with some beneficial scoring there. You could make a case there were 6 or maybe even 7 errors, plus a run scoring on a wild pitch. Every run, or all 4 of the runs that Texas scored, were impacted by a Rays mistake, 2 by Siri and the wild pitch by Glasnow that scored a run. And then just to be shut down by Jordan Montgomery the way they were, just significant. This is the team that has beat up lefties all year, and to see their bats just quieted. I mean, the best scoring chance they had was Siri bunting first and third. He pops it up in the second inning, and at some point, Montgomery went through 10 in a row. And then they turned it over to the 2 guys at the back end. The only bullpen that's ever made the postseason, I think, with more blown saves than saves. And they had no problem getting those last 6 outs yesterday either.
Mark, first of all, your excuse, listen, as a guy that lives in Florida, as you know, and the excuse about the day game, it doesn't work for me because everyone knows the Rays are going to play the early game anyways. It's just the way it's going to be. So they should have known as soon as they clinched the playoff spot and they were hosting, guess what? You ain't getting the 8 o'clock game over Philly, and you're not getting it over Arizona and Milwaukee because they want the West Coast. So guess what you're going to get? Heck, they're lucky they didn't get the 1 o'clock game like they used to do or the noon start. I mean, I remember playing there in 2008. We had noon starts or 1 o'clock starts, whatever it was in the playoffs. So that excuse doesn't fly for me. And also, I mean, again, I live in Florida. I get it. I mean, a lot of the people in Florida in the St. Pete area, they're not working. They're kind of retired. So, again, it's not really – I mean, listen, I get it. Everyone wants to make excuse for their franchises and for why they had a bad attendance. But you have to admit, this was downright embarrassing.
No, I said it was disappointing. I mean, I'm not making excuses. I was relaying to you guys the excuses. I think there need to be 30,000 people for a playoff game. We went back and looked some of the Rays' previous day playoff games, like you mentioned, drew well. They opened the upper deck for this series. I think the tickets for the upper deck were $30. That's pretty reasonable for a playoff game. So, no, there were many excuses made yesterday, but like I said, it did the same thing in Minnesota. There was school, the people have jobs in Minnesota, and they all turned out. And you do make a good point. People probably should have guessed that. I was a little surprised just given the Texas market. That seems like the Dallas area market is a pretty big market, but you're right. Arizona had to get a little bit of a later slot because of where their fans are. And obviously Philly was going to be the premium choice here. Do the Rays having the most wins of the teams playing right now, should that have factored in? Should that have given them a little better slot? Or should MLB have done as they've done in the past where you play the 3 o'clock game one day, but then you play the 7 o'clock game the second day? They're set up right now. They could play all 3 games if there's a third game all at 3 o'clock. So there are some excuses to be made, but there is no excuse for the crowd being so small yesterday.
So I don't know if you caught me making an excuse for the game result. Yes, that was their worst, and I'm sure you'll agree here, defensive game of the year. They do not play sloppy like that. With all of that being said, Topper, they lost 4-0. This team's had a pretty nice year on offense, even despite losing some of their big boys like Lau recently, and obviously no Wander for the rest of this season, but it's been a while. They got shut out. And Monty was awesome. Jordan Montgomery was great. But the Rays win plenty of 5-4 games this year. So despite all of that, do you still feel like, hey, if their offense shows up against a dude in Nate Eovaldi today who has not looked good since he came back from the IL, then we'll see the version of Rays baseball that you've been watching most of the year?
Yeah, and we've kind of, the writers, we've been kind of kicking this around this afternoon, just our batting practice, talking amongst ourselves. What do you think is going to happen? Not that any of us really know, but it does seem like the chance where they get a couple off of Valdi, and then either they knock him out early, he has not been going deep, and they get into that bullpen, especially the middle relief of that Texas bullpen looks pretty prime, and then they get to a situation where they end up putting a bunch of runs on the board. So I do think there's a possibility. Hey, everybody say hi to Dukes here. Dukes on foul territory. It's his office we're using for staging this, so thank Dukes.
Thanks,
But
Dukes.
I do think there's a possibility that they end up scoring a bunch of runs, and that's kind of my version of how this unfolds. Maybe it's not true. The lineup's a little different today. Margot's in there, Siri's not. Meade's at second, a little bit of a surprise given the righty starting. I thought you might have seen a Ronda there. They would have moved some pieces around, but I do think you're going to see a little bit more of the Rays offense today. Now, whether that's enough, and I think they feel pretty good about their situation. Eflin, probably the right guy to go. I mean, in setting the rotation up, we thought maybe Eflin would have game one. When they went with Glasnow in game one, there were a bunch of reasons, the rest factor, the workload Eflin has had. But this is me thinking here, but I wonder if part of this was, if Glasnow doesn't have a good game one, you probably feel a little better about Eflin in game two, whereas if Eflin goes out and wins you game one and Glasnow has a bad game two, now you're kind of on the back end of that momentum. So I think they feel pretty good about Eflin. I think they feel he's going to give them a really strong start. And then if this offense can get going. But yeah, I think Cash summed it up yesterday in his post game pretty quickly. He said, we didn't hit well, pitch well, or defend well. And that was all very true.
And Jordan Montgomery is fantastic. I don't want to, overlook the curveball. And I mean, I watch a lot of baseball, but I'm just going to go off the broadcast. And Kratz, you played with him. He's like the best athlete in baseball. He's like America's athlete with that play. Go ahead, tell Topper, because he might not have caught it, but we need to clear this up.
Yeah, like the whole broadcast was, I feel like ill prepared for what Jordan Montgomery is, and not is. He didn't just all of a sudden become an athlete. Like, he's maybe one of the worst defending pitchers I've ever played with. And he would joke about it in a text with me. He joked about it. Like, it's one of those things. How do the Rays not take advantage of that?
Well, they saw what happened when Siri bunted. He made the play of the game, right? Diving off the mound across the foul line. He saved the game right there. That was the Rays' big chance to break it open.
He fell over the chalk line. He is the one person. If you put the ball in his hand, besides throwing strikes, stuff happens. He slings balls everywhere. He doesn't throw it sometimes, and they didn't take advantage of it. So this whole we got to put together a game plan to beat them. Do the Rays know that they lost and now they're up against elimination? Because it feels like they were hoping the game was going to be like 12 innings long, because they never woke up.
They did not wake up, and I do think they're very aware of the situation just based on some of the way they're talking pregame. But they bunted twice yesterday, Kratz. I mean, that might be their record for the year. This is a team that does not bunt. They don't believe in bunting, it seems like. They have been doing some pregame work lately, so wasn't surprised to see him break it out. But they did not put enough balls in play. I mean, the diving catch by Carter in left field early in the game, right on Paredes, snuffed out a rally there. The bunt, they blew up their own rally there, and then they got a Rosarena at second, and then he moved to third, and they left him there in the third inning, and that was pretty much it. They didn't really have much of a threat after that, so they were just shut down by a pitching staff that they probably wouldn't have thought was going to shut them down with those guys that were going yesterday.
Mark, I don't think you could hear us before when we were talking. We obviously talked about the attendance, and then Scott asked me, what they could do to help it. So they're building. Is the stadium deal finalized for the new stadium? Is that like a done deal?
It's not a done deal. It's an agreement has been reached. There's memos of understanding that are hundreds of pages long, but it still has to be The funding has to be voted on by the St. Pete City Council, which is putting in $650 million, which is we call that AJ money, and then the Pinellas County Commission has to approve the other half, which is the $700 million. So those two things have to be voted on. It'll be in the first quarter of next year. So Scott, your Orlando Dreamers thing, you can keep your hat at least for now. It's not like official yet, but it seems pretty close. This is the best and closest they've been, and they seem very excited. You'll see some signs on the broadcast today, here to stay. This is a new logo that's popping up that the Rays are pushing pretty hard to kind of build the support for this. But yes, the point you're getting to, AJ, is they're building a new stadium in the parking lot of the stadium that they're not drawing people in for 26 years. Why would you do that?
Yeah, that was kind of my point. But you know what?
Yeah,
you know who would welcome you with open arms? The best food city in the country,
AJ,
Orlando.
stop though. It's so tired. It's
the
just not
fast food
happening.
capital of the world. I mean, I will
That's
admit,
what they voted. Listen, I didn't vote,
white,
but people voted on Orlando as the best food city in the country. What do you want me to do?
Nobody in the world voted on Orlando as the best food city in the world.
People magazine.
Oh,
so
stop it.
It was AJ's whole neighborhood.
What did you think What did you think you were going to win, like the most handsome man contest in People Magazine? Is that why you were looking at it?
That was the second vote that I finished second in.
He had a dentist appointment. That's why he's reading people.
To Zach Eflin. It's weird. Everybody's connected to Orlando with these votes.
But seriously, Mark. Again, we just talked about it. Nobody wants to cross the bridge and to go to St. Pete. I mean, it sucks.
But that's not true. People cross the bridge to go to the beach all the time. They come to these downtown music festivals.
Stay there all day.
They come. They're making a choice. It's not the bridge. It's people deciding they don't want to come. It's not the bridge. I go to hockey games and concerts in Tampa. The bridge works both ways. It's the same amount of lanes both ways. Yeah, you know what? If it's a 7:30 concert, which means it's going to start at 8:30, you better leave at like 5:30. It's just how it is. You guys live in big cities. You've been in big cities. Do you think the average person in a normal big city doesn't think 45 minutes to go to a game is reasonable? That's probably about the average commute for people in New York,
then what is it?
Boston.
Then what is it?
But here, people are mad that it's at 45 minutes or an hour. That's just how it is. Deal with it. If you want to go to an event, it works the other way too.
Yeah.
Okay, then what is it?
I mean, I think it's a bunch of things. I think there's some apathy. I think it's the size of the fan base. I think it's people not even in the 26th year realizing that playoff games are special. I mean, is there literally burnout because the Rays have made it 5 years in a row? They haven't played a lot of home games. 2020, they played 2 with no fans. 21, they played 2. Last year, they didn't play any. 19, they played 2. It's not like they've been wearing people out here. I mean, why aren't they coming to a postseason game? I don't have an answer for you, but there were not enough people here yesterday for a market that, this attendance was up 30% this year. That's the other factor. Why were they not coming yesterday?
Do they sell the team in the area where there's population like the Lightning sells a team? Because every spring training I come down there and I know it's hockey time and it's not spring training, excitement. I see Lightning stuff everywhere in Tampa. So all these excuses of the bridge, the stadium, blah, blah, blah. They got a great team to come and watch, and they don't come and watch it. To me, I think it's the team not selling enough of the Rays to the people. They're just like, we're okay. Just, we'll get our pendants. We'll get our pendants from the league. We'll get our, our check here. We'll make sure Marc Topkin has a nice media booth that he can watch the game in, and then the season's over.
Ultimately, in all seriousness, I think the answer is a little bit of everything we talked about. I think there are people in Tampa who do find it annoying to have to drive over the bridge. Like, oh, that's St. Pete. They're Tampa. There's a growing market in St. Pete. There's a ton of people that have moved to downtown St. Pete. Part of the reason they're building the stadium in St. Pete is the projections, and this thing they're going to build is not just the stadium. It's going to be like the Battery in Atlanta, and it's twice the size of that. So if they're anywhere near as successful in drawing people as the Atlanta Battery complex is, that's going to be a huge part of this. But yeah, there's bias, there's apathy, there's people I think who just don't appreciate the experience. You guys have played the game. It's rare to make the playoffs. Some guys make it every year, but some guys go their whole year without making it. If you're a fan, you should want to see a playoff game. It's the first round. I get that. People want to save their money. There's going to be more. You can come up with all these excuses, but there can't only be 19,704 people coming to a playoff game. It doesn't make sense.
If the ballpark was nice, like it will be when it gets recreated, and it was placed right next to the Lightning spot, would they have more success? I know you're saying like it's not a good excuse, but See, the problem I have, like I lived in Miami for a while, and you do have a lot of people that say don't go to Marlins games. Like people from different places. There's a lot of distractions, other things going on down there. You hear it all because the locations haven't worked there either. For Tampa, and Tampa Bay, people could say, oh, yeah, you get so many people that are retiring down there, moving there. There's not as many people from Tampa Bay living there as there are, say, Minnesota, right? Like Minnesota's not like, oh, I'm going to retire in Minnesota, right? Like everybody that's there is like, yo, this is our city. We haven't won in forever. So it just felt different. And that they made Tampa Bay look bad yesterday. So I'm just trying to figure out what is the solution, because there is going to be baseball there for a while now, Topper, but it's not a good look for our sport.
Well, before I answer, let me ask you, when you lived in Miami, did you have more than 1.5 friends like you have in Orlando? What was the over-under in Miami?
I did. Okay. Yeah. AJ's
okay.
Just like taking up way too much of my time. So
wait, am I the half or the whole friend? Am I the half or the whole?
You're the half.
Okay,
you're the half.
Don't tell
we haven't
me.
gotten to dinner or anything yet, so you're the half. I have one friend.
Okay, there. I just wanted to check. I was feeling a little bad for you there, buddy.
No, I got Miami's my spot. Miami and Brooklyn.
Yeah, look, in an ideal world, yeah, I would say you put the stadium in Tampa. I don't know that the spot next to the hockey arena is the best spot only because of access and egress. Again, hockey is 41 home games, 40, something like that. Baseball, twice as many. Baseball, a lot of weeknight games. Hockey, not as many. So I do think you probably would have to find the right spot. They were looking at Ybor City, which is kind of an entertainment district. That also didn't have great access, egress. Waterfront makes a lot of sense for a Tampa Bay team, but if it's going to be a fixed dome stadium, how much value does that have? So let's say you found the perfect spot in Tampa. These guys who own this team are really, really smart businessmen. That's how they made a ton of money. They have spent a long time looking for a spot in Tampa. They made a deal to have permission to look in Tampa, even though their lease didn't allow it. They have been very out front saying that would be the ideal spot. They could not find a deal that worked in Tampa. There was not a deal to be made that they thought was going to work, and they're pretty good at making money. So the deal in St. Pete is the one that they decided was the best and probably the only viable deal. So they have to do the best they can, right? The other alternative is move the team. The owner's been on record as saying he wasn't going to move the team, so then he would have had to sell it, and someone else would have tried to deal with moving it. So Tampa Bay area, they're basically given a chance here. The team is going to stay, and now the question will be what they can do to make this entertainment district. It's called the Historic Gas Plant District, a really attractive place that's going to draw enough people with all the other stuff as well as the baseball to make it work. There wasn't like A and B, and they chose this. There was no B at this point.
No, it's fair. Okay, that's helpful because we're sitting here befuddled.
So I agree. If Pierzynski just said, "Fine, I'm going to pay for it. It's my stadium. I got you," and he could just pick a spot because he knows everybody, it would be in Tampa. But he didn't come over.
No,
That's bullshit.
It would
be in Orlando.
It'd be in Orlando. It wouldn't be in Tampa.
AJ, would it have sold out? Would Orlando sell out games all year?
Think
No.
they wouldn't? Oh, come on.
Everybody's going to Disney.
How did the
Exactly. You put it right by Disney. It's like Vegas, baby.
Isn't the Vegas / Orlando problem that so many of the people that live there are the working people who work at in the resort industry, and they work a lot of restaurants and clubs that are open at night. A lot of people are working as well. So I know we were being funny there, but in all seriousness, I'm not sure how baseball is going to work in Vegas. I'm not sure how baseball would work in Orlando from that standpoint either.
I know how it works in St. Pete, though. 19,704.
There's 2 Florida teams in the playoffs. How many other states can say that right now?
That's right. Florida's got winning baseball. Just Florida doesn't know about it. That's the problem. So we'll keep fighting the good fight to let everyone know. But Topper, enjoy the game. Yeah, I've got the Rays taking this one back and making it a nice series in a game 3 for us tomorrow. So thanks for swinging by, man. Appreciate it.
You forgot about Texas, by the way. You forgot about Texas having 2 teams.
That's true.
Scott, you do have one friend in St. Pete, by the way.
Hey, there it is. All right. Well, tell that one friend thank you. No, I'm kidding. Thanks, Topper.
Tell Trisha thank you.
That's true. I have 2.